And so we're really pleased to have one of the best representatives of bike travel in the world, Mr. Willie Weir.
So the recent manual that I read on paving projects throughout the... Oh, no, that was the other one I was supposed to give. Gosh, I haven't done this. Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer to. I'm half crazy, or for the love of you. It won't be a stylish marriage. I surely can't afford a carriage. But you'll look sweet upon the seat of a bicycle built for two. All right, I'm just going to be perfectly honest right away and tell you that I no longer own a tandem, but I really like that song. It's like, I got an email. I think it was last year, and it said, Mr. Weir, I have a couple of questions for you, and this person was asking about bicycle touring, and so I took the time to answer the questions, and I emailed it off, and afterwards, there was a reply, and it read, Mr. Weir, thank you so much for taking the time to answer my questions about bicycle touring. It is so incredible to get this information from somebody who's been doing this longer than I've been alive. Oh, wow, okay, I guess I'm old. Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, wow. I mean, it's an arrival of a sense. Like, I've gone from this kid who had no idea what to do to be able to share that with a whole lot of other people. But you know, I tell people all the time, I'm not really an avid cyclist. I am an avid traveler who just happened to discover the best possible way to do it on this planet Earth. And you know, I call the bicycle the world's last innocent form of transportation. I was cycling up in Saskatchewan, and I was cycling across Canada, and I had about 100-mile day, and I was really beat, and I did what I do very often. I knocked on a door. See, warm showers before there was warm showers was just the people's door that you knocked on, and they answered, right? And so I knocked on this door, and this couple answered, and I asked if I could pitch my tent on their property, and they said, of course, that was okay. And then, so I spent the night there, and in the morning, they came by to my tent and said, I hope if you'd like to, you could come inside for breakfast. Yeah, okay. And so I went in for breakfast, and I was sitting there eating some eggs and drinking some coffee, and this woman across the table, my host, looked at me and she goes, do you mind if I tell you something? I said, sure. She goes, I am 80 years old, and you are the first stranger we've ever allowed in our house. Wow. I said, do you mind if I ask you a question? She said, okay. I said, why me? And there was a really long pause. And she finally said, you were on a bicycle. You had to be a good person. I'd like to think a lot of times it was my personality that has led me around the world with these kinds of reactions, but very often it was the vehicle that I was riding. And you know, it's not just a bike. It is a bike that has panniers or bags or something that announces an adventure. There is something about a loaded touring bike that screams adventure, and you know what? People like to be involved in them even if they aren't on them themselves. And you know, I was cycling again on that trip across Canada. I ended up getting all the way over to Nova Scotia, but I was really using it as an excuse to go to a family reunion in upstate New York. And so I was going across the state of New York, and I'm cycling along through the Finger Lake regions, and there were some severe weather warnings out. Now, I'm from the West Coast, Sacramento, Seattle, and severe warning for us out there is like it's gonna drizzle longer. And so I really wasn't concerned at all. Okay, all right, no problem. Well, wow. I mean, it went from one of the most beautiful days I've ever been on the bike, and within 3 minutes, it went from that to the skies being this dark, inky, black blue, and 6 billion gallons of water fell out of the sky, and the wind blew me straight off the road. I mean, I had panniers flying, and I kind of like, oh my God, this is like Noah rain. I can't believe this. And so I'm there, I'm picking up my panniers, I look across, and through the rain you could barely see through, there was a house, and it had a wraparound porch. And so I took my bike, and I grabbed it, and I had way too much gear. Got up the stairs, and I got to the top, and I got my bike and my gear underneath the cover of that thing, and I just looked out as it just poured. And I'm looking out thinking, it can't do this forever. And I hear the door up and behind me, and I see this face looking through. And I turn around and I say, I hope you don't mind, but wow, I have never seen it rain like this, and I'm just here for as long as the rain goes by. Is that okay? And the door swings wide open. The guy goes, oh, come on inside. We're watching Superman. So he comes in. He goes, leave your bike to trip on the porch there, that's fine. And I walk and I bring the bike inside. There's his kids, 7 and 9 years old, they're on the couch. He immediately sits me down, hands me a bowl of popcorn, and he says, we're about halfway through the movie. Do you need to get the plot? And I said, I got Superman down, that's okay, I'm fine. So eating popcorn, he asked me some questions about the trip, and we talk to the kids, get to the end of the movie, he puts his kids to bed, and he goes, well, you got the couch, that's fine. And I'll see you in the morning. Oh, wait a second. Okay, my wife works the late shift, and I'll deal with that. We'll see you in the morning. So he says goodnight. Well, what I don't realize is dealing with that meant that he went and he wrote a sign, and he put it on the door. And that sign read, guy on couch, okay. See bicycle in kitchen. So about 2 o'clock in the morning or sometime, I hear a rustling of the doorknob, and the door slowly opens up, and I hear, hello? And it's fine to come in, I'm awake, and the light comes on, and we're looking at each other, and she's looking at me like, okay, the note said, and I said, your husband is a really, really nice guy. He's really great, and I really appreciate it. He allowed me to sleep here for the night, and I hope that's okay. I'm on this trip. I went to family reunion. I went across Canada, and she looked straight past me into the kitchen, and she went, on that? And I said, well, yeah, I started kind of early. I was in May, and I went across Rogers Pass, and she goes, oh my God. And she went over, and she got a chair from the kitchen, and she put it about 6 inches away from me and sat down, and she goes, I'm almost embarrassed even to admit this, but we live so close. I've never been to Canada. And is it as beautiful as they say it is? And I said, probably even more. And that woman started in British Columbia and went province by province by province, asking questions for the next 2 hours. And I told stories, and at a certain point, she looked at her watch and went, oh my God, I've kept you up so late, this is crazy. Well, I gotta get to sleep because I have to get up and make my husband breakfast like he can't make it himself. And I'll see you in the morning, good night. So I instantly fall asleep, and I wake up a couple of hours later to the smell of bacon. And I look up, and this woman is rounding the corner from the kitchen, and she has a platter, and she has eggs and bacon and coffee, and she sets it down next to me, and she says, I want to thank you so much. Huh? I said, what? This is really crazy, okay? So, like, I'm in your house, and you have just served me breakfast in couch, and I am the one who needs to thank you. I mean, and she looks, she goes, well, fine, but you don't understand. She says, I have a job, and I've had it for a long time, and I've not liked it for about as long as I've had it. It's just, but you know what? We have a couple kids, and I love my kids and my husband, and sometimes, you know, you just, you know, you play with the cards that are dealt you. This morning, I am going to work. And for the first time, and I don't know how long, I have something to talk about. Thank you. And that is when I realized how important it was as a bicycle traveler. Now, how many times, for how many hours people ask you about your adventure, that you need to answer them. Because you know what? Most of the people on this planet never get to take that adventure, and you get to bring them along for a little while. The bicycle itself and its entity it has a way of breaking down barriers. You are vulnerable when you ride a bike, and you're not surrounded by a big can of metal. But because of that, people are willing to be vulnerable with you. In a little tiny community in Alabama near the Mississippi border, a young kid turned around and yelled into the house, "Hey, Daddy, you ain't gonna believe this. There is a man with bicycle britches on our porch asking for a place to camp." Yeah, that was me. And it was me and my wife, because we were touring the Deep South for 3 months on bicycles. And we weren't very smart, because we decided to tour in February because it's the Deep South. It's warm all the time, right? No, it's really not. And it had been drizzling all day. And I don't realize that, you know, with humidity, it just gets even colder. I've never been so cold in my life. I would take snow over this. And we'd had a flat and a broken spoke, and we were on the verge of hypothermia. And so I knocked on that door, and Daddy did come to the door, and his name was Todd Skinner, and his wife, Kim. Todd said of his sister, "She's mean as a snake, but she'll do anything for you if she likes you." And Todd looked at me, and he looked out the weather, he looked at our bikes, and he said, "I wouldn't let my dog camp in weather like this. Come, follow me." So followed him, and he had a workshop. He had a workshop, and inside of it was a old potbelly stove, and he had plenty of wood. And he said, "It's yours. And believe me, it's gonna rain for a long time, so you can stay there as long as you want, but don't leave until this lets up, because from the weather forecast." So that's where we stayed, in the workshop at Todd and Kim Skinner. And they lived in this little community, and he did a little farming. He owned about 20 Walker hounds. But like a lot of people in that area of the country, so many of them had jobs that were far away, 60, 70, 80 miles away at the local mill. And they would take off each day and be gone for most of the day, and then come back and invite us into the house. And we would sit around their table with him and his kids and their kids, and just have a blast. And you know what? I was sitting there eating deer stew with endless cups of sweet iced tea, and I looked across the table, and I thought to myself, wow, we are worlds apart. I mean, this guy lives in the country, I live in the city. He voted for George, I voted for Al. You know, he hunts deer, I hunt for discounts at the grocery store. He drives a 2-ton pickup, and I ride a 2-heavy bike. But here we are, sitting across from each other, laughing and talking and discussing and doing something that somehow people in this country have stopped doing. We yell and we scream at each other, or we let people on television yell and scream for us, and we've stopped talking. And that is the magic of a bicycle, because it can allow you to get in those situations, and because somehow you're on an adventure, you're in this space, you're allowed to be in a household that you never thought you'd be in. You're with people you never think maybe you'd invite into your house. And after a while, you realize, wow, we have more in common than we have not so. And the sun did come up the next morning. And we went out and started packing up our bikes, and Todd asked me to help him out because he had the cows and he had some bales of hay he had to move along. And I tell you, bicycle touring does not do much for the upper body strength. So I'm working on this bale of hay, which is just like, oh my God. And I'm trying to make conversation. I said, Todd, you know, I have to say, if I lived in this county, if I was born in this county, I think I would have been a farmer. I think I would have been a hunter. And Todd took that bale of hay from me and threw it like a marshmallow. And he said, and you know what, Willie? I think if I'd been born in the city, I think I'd been a bike rider. That is why I do what I do. And you know, you've raised your hand, so I'm not going to have you do it once again. But you know what? You who rode in 1976, oh man, God bless you. You know why? Because you inspired me. See, it wasn't just 4 people going somewhere, or maybe 10 or 100. It needed to be 4,000 people that had gone across the United States before me, because, you know, the biggest athletic achievement I'd done before I bicycled across the United States was be captain of the bowling team. And I'm sorry, if it had just been 2 or 3 people going across, I would have gone, well, that's great. I'm never going to do that. But you all did it. And I thought, you know what? I bet one of those people out there was on the bowling team too. I could do it. And so in 1981, I took off with my best friend, Thomas Schroeder, and his sister made us t-shirts, East Coast or Bust. And unfortunately, she used a kind of weird font that made the T's look a little bit too much like Y's, and so most people read our t-shirts as easy, cozy, or busy. I stopped trying to explain that one, yeah. What is that? Oh, it's just our group we're going through. Easy, cozy, or busy, that's fine. And man, I made it across. I didn't think I would, and I thought it was the only trip I'd ever take. Oh, but it wasn't. And I kept traveling, and somewhere along the line, an organization called Bikecentennial, later Adventure Cycling Association, asked me to write for their magazine in 1997, and I've been doing it ever since. Mostly about my travels, about people around the world, my wife and I. But this last year and a half, I have had the privilege really of focusing not on me or what around, but other people. And I know if you read the magazine, you know about Zeke. You've read about Zeke, a 12-year-old kid who contacted me at 12 years old. This kid rode basically from San Diego to Seattle along the coastal route. He went the wrong way against the headwind. And then he contacted me from there. He ended up cycling from Mexico to Canada via the Sierra Cascades route. And then he was 14, he had to do something bigger. Then he went from Delaware to Berkeley. And I joined him on those 2 trips for part of that. And you know what? He's 15 now. And just to let you know, a little update here, Zeke is in Colorado right now because he started in Canada and he's riding the Continental Divide Trail. And he's heading to Mexico, and he might think that he might head on to Mazatlan as well. He doesn't know. But you know what's amazing is when you think about technology, and I know you always think like, you know, back then things were just better, and we know because when we did it, we just had paper, and we didn't have cell phones, and everything was great. And that is true, but you know what? Without what we've got today, and without having a website and the ability, there was an 11-year-old kid who could get on a website and open it up and see 40, 50 zillion miles of trails that were out there across the country, and maybe even more importantly, was then able to point to his parents and say, look, these are legitimate trails. This organization, they wouldn't put trails there that are super dangerous. I want to do this. And he was able to do that. You know, and just later on this year, you are going to read about somebody else that I met along the way. And this person, Beth, she is 86 years old. And when I chatted with her, I found out that she has ridden across on the Trans-America Trail, but she's also done the Northern Tier, and she's also done the Southern Tier, and she's done the West Coast, and she's done the East Coast. And on her first trip, she was 65 years old. 12 years old to 86 years old, and probably years beyond it before that. The amount of people and the range of humanity that this organization is able to inspire. And if you ever wondered whether the Adventure Cycling Association inspired people to travel by bike, just take, well, pretty much anyone in this room, but just take aside Zeke and take aside Beth, and that's all the information you need to know. And so that is why we're here to celebrate that first trip. And without it, this wouldn't be. Believe me, it wouldn't. And all of the effort has come from the staff and this organization. And you know, it may be pie in the sky, but you know, I remember something else that felt that way to a whole hell of a lot of people. And it was called Bikecentennial 40 years ago. But I truly believe to this day that we can change this world for the good, one bicycle journey at a time. Keep pedaling, folks. Keep supporting this amazing organization. And thank you so much.